Welcome to my show. It's called Just Curious. How you doing today?
Talk to me, Stan.
Oh man, I'm excited. This is actually my first interview, so I just want to say I appreciate you for coming out.
All right, no doubt, man, no
Yeah.
doubt. Anytime you need me.
Yeah, I call it Just Curious because I was always a curious kid. Just want to know, ask questions, and as I get older, I'm a sponge, so I soak all the game and information. So what better way to soak the game than from somebody like yourself?
All right, well let's do it.
I want to get into your story. I want to start from the beginning. So, you're from Cleveland, Ohio, right? Correct?
Born and raised,
Born and
Cleveland,
raised.
Ohio.
The Lee and Harvard area. That's right.
I was born over on in the Cedar area, and then moved. My parents moved to 93rd and St. Clair, and then till I was like 5 years old, then I moved to Lee Harvard.
Oh wow. So that's kind of like my story because I lived on 105 over there in South Boulevard, 123rd Lakeview. Then I moved to Harvard, Lee and Harvard, when I was about 8 years old. So
Okay, same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Lee Harvard, stand up.
Yep. So actually I heard of you through my barbershop because I went to Carl's barbershop. I used to go there since 5th grade.
Our barbershop.
Our barber. Well, you had it first, so But they used to talk about this amazing like artist that came there. Chill, chill, chill. Like they used to always say your name, and I was like, I'm like chill. I'm like, what about me? Like I'm lit. I'm the guy.
Right.
So one day I just decided to just to reach out to you and everything like that, and we kind of gonna get more into that whole dynamic a little later, but that's kind of how I found out about you. And then and you're a JFK alumni as well, right?
For sure.
Yeah, I'm a JFK alumni. Fighting Eagles.
Mighty Fighting Eagles.
Yeah. So growing up in Cleveland, like how was it for you? Like just beginning stages.
It was cool. From the time that I moved to Lee and Harvard, it was an exciting time for a young black kid because in Lee and Harvard, we had like black businesses and black people working and owning stores and doing all, like my father worked at a loan company. He was a manager of a loan company and then started his own law firm and travel agency. But man, we had black dentists, black doctors, just to be a young black kid, to see all these black businesses and black businessmen, man, that was dope.
Yeah. So this is what era was this like? Was this like the 70s?
It's the 70s.
70s. Yeah, I heard about that. I heard it was like 1 million people who lived in Cleveland.
Yeah,
around that
man.
time.
Yeah, and Lee and Harvard was, well, they still maintain Ward 1 is still the number one voting ward on the east side.
Oh, wow.
But so we were always active in the community and in the area.
Yeah, that was right after the Huff riots and all of that. That was like 68.
Yeah, that's
66.
That's like when we moved out of the St. Clair.
Oh, you moved away.
We moved away from the riots.
Yeah.
But no, that was around that same time, just after that.
Heard it was pretty rough. So like going into like your high school years, like JFK, did you play any sports or anything like that?
When I went to Kennedy, I was before I even got to high school, I was into the martial arts heavy. And probably just as I was graduating from middle school, I met Ken Ferguson, late great Grandmaster Ken Ferguson.
Rest in peace.
And but I already had been a martial artist. I had been studying martial arts at a young age. But probably just as I was leaving middle school, going to go to high school, I met Ferg. And so by the time I got to high school, I was already 3-time national champion. So we were out all around the country doing martial arts. So, I was karate man all over the country. Like I said, I won, many national championships, state championships, qualified for United States team trials. So I did all of that through high school.
Wow. Yeah, I heard about that. Mr. Ferguson, he was a mentor of yours, and I remember going in there because I throw a lot of events, especially in the community, and I seen like pictures of you on the wall and stuff like that.
Right.
Like you ain't had no beard, and had nothing,
Right.
just baby face.
Right.
Yeah.
So they got this cool painting of Ferg and 4 of his top students.
Really?
And we're in that painting. So everybody says, "Man, you one of the cats in the painting." But Yeah, man. Ferg was a mentor, a big brother, kind of a father figure, and I say kind of a father figure because I I had a dad, and he was definitely present in my life and taught me many things. But Ferg was a different type of mentor, and I'm happy to say that I was among Ken Ferguson's original students. He didn't have a karate school when he taught us.
Oh,
we
wow.
were we studied at the JFK Rec Center.
Oh, wow.
So after he saw that he knew what he was doing, and then he had all these national champions. Then he opened up a school and started teaching. But we were his first cats.
Yeah, he definitely somebody that's inspirational to me. I kind of met him a little later, but just the game and the advice that he gave me, is priceless. And sometimes game isn't about somebody telling you; it just could be simply you seeing it.
Right. And he was that type of brother. He was positive. He was confident. He was strong. He was charismatic. He was a cool dude, man. And he didn't just teach us martial arts. Ferg taught me how to drive a car.
Wow.
Well, when I say taught me how to drive a car, he left me in the car and said, "Okay, take the car back to the rec center." I'm like, oh, okay, this nice. Let me stop a couple places and show off that I got a car. But so he gives us the opportunity to get our thing off. And he was always that kind of cat.
Okay. I want to ask you about JFK because I'm an alumni as well. How was JFK back in the day, back in those times?
Hey, man, big family. Man, the friendships that I made at Kennedy, I still maintain those friendships right now. Not that much beef. It was a good time to be a young cat at high school with a lot of friends. A lot of those same friends I went to college with. A lot of those same friends I'm still friends with today. So man, high school was real cool for me. I found out a lot about myself, how to deal with other people, how to get ready for education, to prepare myself to go to college.
Right.
And, Kennedy gave me it wasn't like super strict. It gave you room to get your stuff off and to do what you want to do, even if you want to have fun. But it still gave you the opportunity to learn some stuff and to learn how to learn things. So it was cool.
Yeah, I know. Like when I went to Kennedy, it was rough. So we had like almost 3,000 people went there. It was just a lot of violence and different things like that. So I actually seen your yearbook, and I saw your picture had the little flat top and everything like that.
I had no flat top. Come on, don't even do that. Hey, me and Martin Luther King never ever had a Jerry curl. All right, so no, I did not have a flat top. I did have a lightweight little fro though.
Yeah, I see that.
So yeah, I did have a lightweight fro.
Yeah.
But man, it was like everybody that was there, we kind of knew each other even if we were from different parts of the neighborhood, so it would be some little beef every once in a while. But for the most part, because everybody kind of knew each other or had like an OG that was somebody else's OG, then most of the time, we squashed the beef. But, obviously there was some time where it was some beef that just had to get handled.
Yeah. Speaking of OG, I know like in this era now, it's not a lot of OGs where they are, but a lot of them don't speak up or say anything.
Right.
So I know back then you had like Mr. Ferguson, different coaches. It could be a barber, your neighbor. Everybody looked out for each other.
Right.
What do you think like happened, to that? Like where did that go?
Well, I mean, I think it has a lot to do with the decline of the community, not just Lee and Harvard. Job disparity, education disparity, pipeline to high school to prison pipeline. We lost somewhere along the line. We lost black leadership, and when you lose black leadership, you kind of lose the fundamentals of what a community is supposed to be. And so we went through a transition, but not just our community, but almost all black communities kind of went through that same thing. But it's just time for cats to step up. Like I see you out there doing your thing, man, and congratulations. You talking to the kids, you dressing up as Santa Claus and doing your thing, and just for them to see cats like you doing stuff like that, it means a lot. And we need more people. We need more brothers doing stuff like that, because that'll help right now.
What you're doing is very inspirational as well, and I want to get to that. I'm gonna just kind of go with the timeline, but just being in media, because a lot of kids are being educated through the internet or television. So this is one of the main reasons why I started this, because I want the youth to see people like yourself. They don't know, because I was going back to the schools and I asked the kid, what do you want to be when you grow up? And he said, I want to be NBA Youngboy, or I want to be a basketball player, I want to be a football player. They don't know that you could be a journalist,
right?
Or you could be in accounting, or you can get a trade, or these different things. So these are the type of people I'm gonna be bringing on the show to show them like it's different outlets. Because we didn't have, like, when I was in school, it wasn't guys coming back to the neighborhoods that looked like me, and and I inspired to be like. I got my inspiration from TV,
Right.
So yeah, what inspired you growing up? Like, who did you like look up to?
I looked up to my dad a lot, because first of all, my dad, man, he had swag, and so I mean, and it's not to say everybody's dad got to have swag for you to learn from him, but he was like a real cool brother, and he talked the talk, he walked the walk, he dressed it, and I saw him because my father was from the poor neighborhoods of Miami, Florida, from a place called Opelika, and my father was probably like the first to two of his family to go to college, and like he sold sandwiches to white people at a hotel to make money to go to school. And so from where he came from, to see him become a lawyer, my father went to law school like while working as an adult. I saw my father going to law school. He'd get off work and then go study for law school. So it was something that I actually saw him doing. And to see him, become a lawyer, and to know where he came from, and to see him do it as an adult was an inspiration. Like, man, if my pops can do that from where he came from, the sky's the limit for me to be able to do, anything that I want to do. I know I'm from that type of cat to be able to do it. And not just him, but all his boys. They was hustling, but they was hustling on the legal, mostly. Mostly on the legal. Yeah. They might have dipped on the other side every once in a while. But good cats to be around, and good dudes to learn from.
That's good. So leaving high school, you went to Kent State?
Kent State University.
Kent State. What did you major in at Kent State?
Criminal justice. My father was a lawyer. I was gonna, follow in those footsteps. Plus, I watched a lot of lawyer stuff on television. It was dope. I was like, man, I could talk that talk and go to court and get my floss on, get my people off. Yeah, but circumstances changed that whole path. But Kent State was slick. Changed my life.
Changed your life. Yeah. So like going into college. Is that when you first start doing the music and everything?
Yeah, definitely. Two things happened at college. One, I walked into a building called Oscar Ritchie Hall, which is the Pan-African Studies, Black Studies Department. And that was like a whole different world, like nothing I had ever seen. You had black men and black women teaching higher education, college courses about black people, black literature, black history, black language. Man, it was so super dope. And I kind of fell in that mix like it was my new home, and I was kind of like born again at the Pan-African Studies Department. But in that same arena, I started hearing, this new thing called rap, and like took to it like crazy. And it was me, really two cats. My boy Cochise, who a lot of people know from, he made some records, made some mixtapes, but he was like the first like Cleveland hip hop star as a DJ. But me and him started together, and we both started in hip hop together, kind of, making our way through this new type of thing. He was a DJ, I was an MC, and that became the beginning of hip hop in Northeast Ohio. Really starting with me and Cochise as young dudes.
Yeah. So y'all used to be like a battle called the Showdown.
The club style showdown. It was a DJ battle. The crazy part about it is this is right at the beginning when hip hop wasn't really a thing. So all the people in the club style showdown were club DJs, and they were playing, regular songs, R&B songs, like some couple disco songs, couple funk songs. They weren't hip hop DJs, but Cochise entered the contest as a straight up hip hop DJ. He was the only one. And I was one of his MCs, one of his rappers. So when Cochise won the club style showdown, I tell anybody, that changed the whole landscape. That united Cleveland into a full out hip hop community. Like Cochise was a citywide name. All of a sudden, he was like the hip hop DJ that you knew. And we had a group called the Bomb Squad, and I was one of the original members of that group, which Cochise was included. And then we were on with him rapping, became like the first rap group to rap live on Cleveland radio. So without even any records, like we were like celebrities in the city. And so big ups to Cochise, also my fraternity brother.
Yeah. So some of the group members of the Bomb Squad, DJ Finesse, Wayne G. You had Johnny O. Then you had Carmella, is that how you say her name? Okay,
man, you did your homework. Okay, but here's game. Definitely me, Kid Finesse, who also was a DJ and an MC, just like Cochise could DJ and rap. MC Wayne G, rest in peace. We lost Wayne. So the original members were me, Cochise, Kid Finesse, Wayne G. Then we added Carmella, also from Kennedy. And she had like her own female group, the Hollywood Show Rocks. But so we had her as our plus one. It was like an old school group, rap group, Funky 4+1. And she was like our plus one. Johnny O wasn't in the group. John, when we first started, I hadn't met John. John was kind of over in the Collinwood area doing his thing at the time. But he came like right after us. Okay. After the Bomb Squad kicked the door down, John came in right behind us, strong. And he had like a full out, just like we had a full out crew. He had, Johnny O and the Sorcerer crew, man, they was dope too. But yeah, so he came like right after us. As far as on a citywide, now John was over in the Collinwood neighborhood. He had that on lock as far as a hip hop DJ. But citywide, Cochise was like the first cat. And I was like one of the first MCs.
So I want to talk about that. So back in this around the 80s, the DJ was the star back starting off. The MC came later, correct?
Yeah. I mean, just like hip hop in general, it all started with the DJ. Like, the original founders of this thing that we call hip hop were DJs. DJ Kool Herc, DJ Africa Bambaataa, Grandmaster Flash. So it wasn't any different in Cleveland. And the truth be told, the DJ spent the money because you got to get equipment. You got to buy records. You got to buy turntables. You got to have your 1200, your mixer, your speakers. You spend some loot. And the DJs is the one that they paid to do the parties. MCs just show up and be like, yo, can I get on the mic? But so it started with the DJs in Cleveland as well as just in the history of hip hop, period. The DJ was the dude. He was the drummer. He was the African drummer that kept that beat going just in modern times.
Yeah, Army Swiss Knife.
That's right.
I want to talk a little bit more about Cochise because he was like a big DJ at Kent State. And then that event that we were just talking about, they didn't play like hip hop music at all. Like he kind of like introduced the hip hop, and then they didn't like that. It was like hating on them and stuff like that.
Well, because Cochise wasn't really a club DJ. I mean, because any hip hop DJ it was no hip hop at clubs in Cleveland at the time. You know, but you had like Bud McFarlane, man, the grand master of mixing records. To this day, he probably still one of the coldest at doing that. But like Bud McFarlane was at Mad Hatter, well, initially City Lights. Preacher Man was at the Mad Hatter. You had my man Luke Owens and a couple cats at different clubs, but they were club DJs. They were playing like music sets that I was just talking about, not hip hop sets. And so yeah, when Cochise came into the showdown, you know, they might, I don't know if maybe you had like 10 minutes to do your set. They might have brought like 4 records. Wow. You know, because they mix it and blend it and go to the next one. They carrying their records in their hand. Cochise come in with 2 crates of records. In that 10 minutes, he probably played 30 records. And he cutting and scratching, and nobody was doing that in Cleveland on Cleveland radio. Hip hop DJs were doing. John, I'm sure, was doing it over in the Collinwood area. But you know, he was a for real hip hop DJ and was like the first hip hop DJ that probably Cleveland knew citywide. He was like an instant celebrity that night. And in the next week, we were on with him as rappers. People was knowing my lyrics. I ain't got a record out, but people knew my lyrics that I was kicking on the radio. And we became like the first rappers that the city knew citywide. And that's when people, you know, talk about, you know, I was, you know, Cleveland's first national rap recording artist. I'm like, dude, I was like Cleveland's first rapper, period, before records. So, man, that was slick time, man. I tell people, you don't know what it's special. I can only imagine what it was like when jazz started or when the blues started. Yeah, rock and roll. You know, I can actually say that I was there when a form of music started. Right. And, you know, it's a special feeling. Also, it just means that you're old. But
man, no, you like a fine bottle of wine.
Hey, it also just means you old. But you know, but that's I'll take that too.
Yeah, so Cochise actually won that battle. It was a battle that they had at the showdown.
It was a battle,
and that's when the hip hop like officially started.
Man, let me tell you something. When Cochise came on and started spinning and started cutting, scratching records, because they wasn't Bud and wasn't doing that. And you know, I say Bud, and again, all respect to Bud McFarlane, all hip hop DJs, the old school DJs, all gonna tell you about Bud as an influence on them. So, you know, I call Bud like the grandmaster of Cleveland hip hop. He's like, it goes back to him in the embryonic stage. But certainly Cochise was like that first cat. But you could just feel like Cleveland, like, oh snap, like they like calling, are you listening to DMT? Like calling into the station, or you could feel a change in what was Cleveland as far as a hip hop community. I could feel it that day being there, because I was like, man, we on the radio station. Like hip hop cats never had been on the radio before. And I'm like, everybody in the city every single person was talking about, yo, did you hear Cochise last night? Did you hear that dude Cochise? Was you listening to 108 Club Style Showdown? You know, even Bud and them was looking like something different is going on right now. It was a change in structure in the environment of Cleveland, Ohio. Cleveland changed that day that Cochise won the Club Style Showdown.
Wow. So the Bomb Squad. So what happened? Like you guys like kind of broke up because you kind of started doing your own thing, and you started to create a buzz in the city, like star status. Like when she went back to Cleveland. So what happened with that?
Well, Cochise broke up with us first. Cochise, man, because it was like he was Jordan and we was the Bulls. He was Michael, we was Tito.
David Ruffin and the Temptations.
Yeah, David Ruffin and the Temptations. I mean, Cochise was huge. And so, you know, when we even started doing other gigs, it would be like Cochise and the Bomb Squad. I didn't really mind it that much, but we had another DJ, Kid Finesse, who was nice. I would say Cochise will probably today admit it. He probably wouldn't then, that Finesse was a better DJ than Cochise, but Cochise was that dude. So Finesse wasn't really rolling with the Cochise and the Bomb Squad name, because initially we were just the Bomb Squad. He was a member of the Bomb Squad. But when he won the showdown, it was Cochise and the Bomb Squad. Like, we was the Pips, and he was glad as night. But, so, you know, Finesse wasn't really with that whole Cochise and the Bomb Squad. And Cochise was like, y'all can roll with me, or y'all can do y'all's own thing, because this thing moving. And I don't blame him for that, because he was that cat back then. And so Cochise, he created another group. Then another group. It was like the Electric Crew, and Cochise and the Electric Crew. Cochise and the whatever. He created a couple crews. But, you know, they wasn't the Bomb Squad.
They weren't the Bomb Squad.
But yeah, so, you know, Cochise started doing his own thing. And then Finesse was kind of our front man as our DJ. And so one day at WZAK, we were there as the Bomb Squad with Carmella, and she was the Mellow Iced Tea back then. And we was doing like a set on the radio on ZAK. And rest in peace, we just lost a giant, Lynn Tolliver. But Lynn brought us on an early version of the Rapper's Delight show, which I end up hosting the show for like 3-4 years. But in that time, we were a guest, and one of our members, I think Wayne G, wasn't there. And so we couldn't do our Bomb Squad set. And the cat was like, okay, but y'all got to go on and do a rap like in the next 5 minutes. And so he was like, anybody got any solo stuff? And they was looking like, no, we ain't got. And I was like, oh, I do. I got some solo stuff.
Ready.
So go ahead, shoot it. Threw on the instrumental and start dropping bars. And so a little bit after that, I mean, it was everybody in Cleveland, because now it's a lot of rap groups in Cleveland. And so everybody's trying to figure out the same thing. How can we get a record deal? Because before, when you're a DJ, you want to give a party, you want to get paid to be the DJ, then you want to host your own party, then you want to rent your own spot. But, you know, it's after a while, that even you get limited. Like, what I'm going to do after this?
Next, yeah.
What's next? So that's when the MCs started being like, cats is making records. So everybody was like, let's see if we can get a record. So it was a mad scramble in Cleveland for everybody to be like, everybody knew somebody that could get them on. And a lot of cats, it was a lot of talented cats by then. So now we're talking like the mid 80s. And, you know, it's always rumored that somebody was going to get a record deal, you know, and I'd be like, I'd be damned if one of these cats, and in my mind, one of these new cats,
Get it before you.
Get it before me, because I'm like OG. And, you know, I'm back in the city. Everybody know me. I'm rocking. Anywhere I go, they're like, chill, get on the mic. And so I was probably like the most known MC, but it was other cats that was, you know, that was putting out good work. And it wasn't easy for Cleveland, for somebody from Cleveland to get a national record deal. It had never been done. New York like owned the game back then. It wasn't even really it was a LA scene, but not a nationwide LA scene. Like, they had stuff in LA. And when I say stuff, I mean like Ice-T. I'd be hard pressed to name somebody else besides Ice-T during that time.
Yeah, that was early 80s.
Right, but my record, I came out on the charts before Ice did.
That was around 84. Was
85, 86.
86.
He came out with Dog in the Wax, and 6 in the Morning was the B-side of that one, and everybody recognized. But my stuff was out before. And I would see Ice in New York. We'd be like the non-New Yorkers on the set. We would talk about how it was to get into the game. But anyhow, yeah, so everybody's trying to get a record deal. And being from Cleveland, it wasn't easy. It was more than a notion. And a lot of cats from my day, you know, kind of gave it up and went on and did whatever they were doing. Some cats was kind of stuck in that lane and on repeat. It was like, either I'm going to get a record deal or bust. And a lot of cats I know is on bust right now. They kind of lost their way, not knowing what to do what to do after that. So,
yeah. So you had got a record deal. Plum Place Records, is that the name of it?
man, Stan did his
That
homework.
That was around 84, wasn't it? Around that time.
Yeah, what you call it? I got approached by this brother Jimmy Stevens. Jimmy Scorpio Stevens Sr. He was like an old school Cleveland DJ. I think he worked on WABQ, maybe JMO, but he also promoted people's music. So he had a lot of connects in the music business. He wanted to start a regional label called Plum Place Records. And so hip hop was this new thing. Everybody's saying you got to get a rap artist. And so, they like, oh, you need to holler at Chill. So he came to me. We signed a deal for a regional record deal. Although I thought, rest in peace, Jimmy Stevens, I thought that Plum Place Records was like a whack ass name for a rap label, but
I seen it too. I had to keep looking. I'm like,
because back then it was a thing saying New York is the Big Apple, but Cleveland is the Plum. Also whack, but that was a promotional thing that was going on through Northeastern Ohio back then. So I signed a regional recording agreement with Jimmy Stevens and immediately started working on a demo or demos for that project. Okay. Which is also was special because people take it for granted. Like it was no hip hop producers back then. Right. So that was no hip hop cats had been in recording studios, recording music, which was also crazy. They didn't know how to mic us. We got a DJ scratching on records. They was like, what the hell?
You had a beat maker.
We had a beatboxer. Yeah. Man, the cat in the recording studio was like, we never did this before. No recording studios in Cleveland had ever had to do that before. So, all the MCs now that go in the studios and have studios, they can send me, they can cash at me.
You started it.
That's right.
So you wanted to kind of change the face because, like you said, people didn't know how to record, they didn't know how to do any of that type of stuff. But you knew that you needed to get some beats. Right. So you went to Ohio State and you met up with a guy named Chapman.
Mike Chapman.
Mike Chapman.
He was the closest cat that I knew as a hip hop producer, but he did a lot of like synth techno type of stuff, and he did like a record. It was more of a techno kind of record. Wasn't hip hop, but he was a young cat, and he had produced a record. So I was like, let's get this Mike Chapman kid, and he had just graduated from high school at Shaker and was going to Ohio State. And me and my manager Red at the time, Red Turner, we rented a car, went to Ohio State. Ain't no cell phones back then. We just trying to look for Mike Chapman. Man, you ever been to Ohio State? It's a huge campus. Yeah. We just walking around like, y'all know Mike Chapman? They looking like, huh? Like we might know 5 cats named Mike Chapman. But we found him. He obviously was in the freshman dorm and rolled up and he's like, yo, MC Chill. I mean, because people still knew me at that time from the Bomb Squad. But so we talked to him. He had some beats. He worked on some beats, came home from school, was in his basement. Now Mike Chapman's a multi-millionaire. But we started those demos in his basement. He ended up, owning a recording studio, which he sold to Bone Thugs and Harmony. Oh, wow. But back then, he was recording in his basement. I think he was living on Strathavon in Shaker. But we hooked up with Mike Chapman to kind of do the production.
That's dope. So I know after that you had a demo and then you so Red, that was your manager at the time?
Right, Red Turner.
So Red.
Uncle Red.
So he had asked you who's like the face of hip hop, who's the guy, whatever. So what was your response to that?
Well, the funny was because hip hop was so new, he asked me, who's in charge of this? Who's in charge of hip hop? And I'm like, that's a crazy question, right? But at that point, the answer was simple. Russell Simmons. If you had to point to one person, but Russell was new then. I mean, it wasn't like Russell, what now was this big, big conglomeration. He had just opened up Def Jam. It was brand new. And so I think we called the operator and was like, yo, we looking for Def Jam records, and called, and LL answered the phone. That's how new it was. And Red like, yeah, some kid named LL answered the phone. Like, you called Def Jam, now it's a big corporation. Back then, LL answered the phone like, yo, what's up? It's Def Jam. This LL, what's up? That's how new it was. And Red like, yo, man, some dude named LL answered the phone. I'm like, LL Cool J? He said, yeah, you know him? I'm like, yeah, he got this dope cutout. I need a beat. And but that was before L was super big. And he might have had 1 or 2 cuts out at the time. But you know, I'm a hip hop cat. I got a hip hop DJ. He playing I Need a Beat and Dangerous at the party. So I'm like, oh, this cat is nice. I know him. Yeah. So yeah, we talked to Russell. Yo, this is Russell. What's up? Like, yo, we doing this, we doing that. He like, okay, get a demo, send it to us, blah, blah, Skippy, bring this, do this, and make it happen. Stay in contact with me. He gave us our marching orders on the process to getting a record deal.
That's what's up. So you had got another record deal, Fever Records.
Right.
And that was in New York. That was based in New York. It's from the Bronx, Bronx.
That is Boogie Down.
Yeah. It's for those who don't know, like Fever Records had like a lot of big artists like Jodeci, I think came out of there, Fat Joe.
Man, let me tell you.
Nina Sky, Big Daddy Kane.
First of all, I want to tell everybody this. For hip hop history, for people that need to know the history, hip hop itself started in the South Bronx. And back in the day, it was just like at the parks. You know, again, we talking about something brand new. They wasn't at the clubs. Hip hop at the beginning was just at the parks, and then maybe in somebody's rec center, somebody's basement party. And after Sugar Hill Gang came out with Rapper's Delight, it was this big rush to sign rap artists. And so you had to go to the Bronx. You don't have to, but the majority of cats, it was culminating from the Bronx. And so this cat, Sal Abatiello, Italian dude, one of the most down Italians dudes.
He started off as a promoter, didn't he?
No, his father owned a club called the Disco Fever. But this became a time when disco got big. It moved to Manhattan, like Studio 54 and stuff like that. So nobody ended up going to the South Bronx to go to the disco. They going. So the Fever needed to make money because disco kind of had moved away. And, you know, it just happens to be the home of hip hop. And somebody said, yo, man, there's this new stuff going on in the parks and down in the South Bronx, this hip hop, this rap stuff. He was like, yo, who's the hot cat? There's like this kid named Flash, Grandmaster Flash, these other cats. So they start bringing in Flash. They start bringing in this cat Junebug, and it sells out at the Fever. So now the Fever ends up being one of the first hip hop clubs of note anywhere. So now people are coming to the Fever. The companies are coming to the Fever looking for rap acts, and they signing cats out of the Fever like crazy. The movie Crush Groove was about the groups Run DMC, Fat Boys, the whole movie. They trying to get into the club, the Fever, to get a record deal.
Oh wow!
In real life, I think they signed their record deal at the Fever. So the owner was like, I'm not gonna keep letting other record companies come here and just sign away my talent. I'm gonna start a record company. So he started Fever Records, and iconic, all of the original cats. A lot of cats from the park, Lovebug, Starsky, that we know from Biggie shouted him out. Cats was in there. Now later on, they signed a lot of other cats, but at the beginning, it was all South Bronx hip hop cats they were signing until one day they signed a cat from Cleveland, and that also was something new that no New York rap companies were signing non-New Yorkers. I don't even think the Fever had any non-South Bronx people on their label.
Oh wow!
Much less a cat from Cleveland, Ohio. So that that began a change in the game nationally. Like, okay, we can sign 9 New York cats. We can put out records with 9 New York cats on a national level. So yeah, me signing. So I never did actually do a record with Plum Place. So we had to work out the deal with Jimmy to do the deal with Fever. And he was cool. He wasn't happy, but he knew what it was. He wasn't going to stand in my way of getting a national deal.
Right.
And this was probably historic, like a non-New York cat. So.
And you guys, so you had contracts set in place with Plum Place Records?
Yo, I signed a record deal. So when the question came, when I met Mr. Magic, who was like the creator of the rap radio format in New York, WBLS, Mr. Magic's Rap Attack.
Yeah, Biggie shouted him out on his song.
Mr. Magic, Marley Marl. Yeah. So Mr. Magic discovered me. He also discovered Houdini. Man, a lot of cats Magic put on. He was the man. Matter of fact, the Juice Crew are named after him because he also was called Sir Juice.
Oh, wow.
And so the Juice Crew is named after him. He put all of them on. Marley Marl was his DJ on the rap show. Magic was on the mic. Magic was the host. Marley Marl was spinning the records. So Magic is in Cleveland with Roxanne Shante, and Mike Chapman is driving the van because he's working for 108 at the time. He like, yo, chill, we about to pick up Mr. Magic. You want to roll? I'm like, hell yeah. We rolling with Mr. Magic, Roxanne Shante, Tyrone Williams, who later became known as Fly Ty, the owner of Cold Chillin' Records, who signed Big Daddy Kane and all of them. Mike put in my demo tape because we already was working on the Plum Place project. And Magic was like, who's that? And Mike was like, oh, that's Chill. He looked back at me. He said, that's you? Like, yeah. He said, who did the music? I point back up to the front. Mike. Oh, him. Magic was like, oh, okay. I see how y'all got me hemmed up with the producer and the artist. Yep. And he said, you got a record deal. The answer was yes. That's not what I said, because I knew what he was asking me. He was asking me, do you want a record deal? So Mike even looked at me like, what you gonna say, Chill? And I was like, no, I don't got a record deal. He's like, give me that demo. I'll hit you back. He give me a call. Yo, man, you want to be on Fever Records? I'm like, hell yeah. But we do got something to work out first. Remember I told y'all I didn't have a record deal? It wasn't really the truth. But, they dealt with it. They worked it out. They worked it out with Jimmy, and the deal went through.
So going to New York, how was that? Because I used to manage artists, and I took an artist to New York. He performed at Apollo. So I just remember the reaction. Like it's hard. Like if you're not from New York, it's hard to for them to just open the door for you. How was your experience?
Man, Stan, I was an alien. Man, you gotta imagine. So by the time you was there and you was with Phil, right?
Yep.
Okay, but by that time they know other artists not from New York. But for most cats in New York, I was like the first rap cat they knew that wasn't from there. And so I show up, and I'm trying to get on. I'm doing shows. I'm doing radio spots. I'm running through the clubs. And they looking like, this dude talk funny, because if you don't talk like you from New York, they think
country.
you act like a country. I mean, I heard that all the time. Like every time I said something, they say what I said and have like some extra country stuff to it and think that was funny as hell. But yeah, I was like an alien in New York. Cats was like, where you from, dog? And because even like Philly was, that's East Coast, but Philly still hadn't fully crossed into being accepted in New York. Because, at that time, Will Smith is starting to do his thing, Fresh Prince and Jazzy Jeff. But I hit the charts before them. I think I'm like the first non-New York rapper to ever chart on Billboard. And so it was because Will Smith and it was in Philly. Ice-T was out in LA, but they had yet, probably until later, 86, had like a big enough record to to hit the charts. So yeah, but you know, even like I talked to Dana Dane not long ago, and Dana was like, "Chill, I'm gonna tell you, man, you was a cool dude. But when I first met you, I walked out the Apollo. I met Dane at the Apollo, and he was like, I told my manager, like, man, that dude talk funny. He said he cool as hell, but he talk funny. He said, chill, we never met a cat that wasn't from New York before. So it was different. So I'd like to think I opened that door for anybody not from New York to be accepted in New York, and then eventually on a national scale, because they was kicking Ice ass. Like Ice was the man in the West Coast. They was not playing his stuff in New York. You know, probably when you get closer, you get to the East Coast, man, they playing, it's like they game. They like, it's our basketball, it's our court, it's our game. Nobody else can play. And me and Ice, we talked about that. I remember sitting with him at the LQ, the Latin Quarter, just talking about how, you know, how we can get in and break through that lane. But yeah, it was different. I ain't gonna lie. Cats was looking at me like, where are you from again, Cat? Like, why are you here? Like, how does that work? Yeah. So yeah, it was different. But you know, I'm from the land. And I was a true MC, and I respected the culture and their culture, and I was gonna do what I had to do.
Yeah. Yes. New York, they think they state is like the whole country. They don't look at nothing else. It's New York, you know. Because I went out there and I was selling my product, and before I got one off, people just walking past me. I'm like, you better talk to me. Like, I just want you to smell it, you know. So eventually, once I went to Harlem and things started to slow down a little bit, started to go to different boroughs. I went to Queens, Brooklyn. Like that's how I feel it. I actually rode, you know, the subways and trains and all that. And I seen the rats inside of the trains and all that. That was cool. But you kind of like brushed over something. You said you made the Billboard Top 100. We didn't have like a Top 100 back then, hip hop or rap. This was with Whitney Houston.
Yeah. When I was
Jackson, everybody.
When I was on Billboard Top 100, I'm on with everybody. I'm on with Sade and Whitney Houston and you know, Little Kids, New Edition. They was little new editions. And so yeah, it wasn't a rap chart back then. It was, so you was just, if you had a hot cut, you just had a hot cut, regardless of what type of black music it was. So yeah, that was, you know, you don't really think about that at the time because that's the only chart that we had. But yeah, that was slick. Looking back at it.
Yeah, it definitely is. And it's people, and this is one of the reasons why I wanted you to come on here, because I know it's Black History Month now too, but you actually like one of the founders, not just for the city, but like this whole region. You know, being able to make Top 100, not a lot of people that say they've done that, you know, or even, you know, simply just go to New York and you in there with the Wolves and you holding your own, you know. So I commend you, you know, just especially because I'm in that world too. So I want to talk about your first project. So when you went to Fever Records, you dropped your first project, and I seen like the cover art. And it had like you with a bunch of, you know, women, you know, they
in bikinis.
Yeah, you're real enticeful. You know? So who came up with that whole concept?
I definitely came up with the concept. And here's something crazy that I was talking about the other day. Fever Records, of all those stars and superstars and legends that they had on Fever Records, all their music was on 12-inch singles. They just put out 12-inch single after 12-inch single. So I actually had the first album. I had the first full-length, full-out, multi-song, multi-side album on Fever Records. So when it came time to do an album and an album cover, they had never done that before, because all they had was the 12 inches with the little cutout in the circle and the record label on the inside. They had no pictures on the cover.
Your age right now, man.
Right, I'm just saying. This is history, though.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And they never had an album, an LP, a full out long play multi-song album in the whole history of the record company. And I tell somebody, if you go back and you find that album and you look on the spine, it'll say 001, which means it's the first album that record company ever had. And so the question was, they never did an album cover before. So we pitching ideas, and I'm at Sutra Records, which was Sutra kind of did the business. Fat Boys were on Sutra, Kid and Play initially were on Sutra. So we were all the same label, we all the same family. So they like, well, what's kind of, what? I said, okay, I got this idea. I'm going to have on my winter stuff and earmuffs and my long coat and some gloves, but I'm going to be on the beach with some women in bikinis. And they was like, okay, well, where you going to get the women with bikinis from? Because we're in New York, right? Do you know them? Do you? I'm like, Sal, at the club, Sal owned like 3-4 clubs. And I know for a fact they had bikini contests because I've been a judge at the bikini contest at the club in the Bronx. I'm like, Sal, I have a bikini contest every week. We just need to hit up the winners and get them in. And so we did it and went to the actual shoot for that was a little crazy. I caught a little heat because, people was like, why you got a bunch of white women on the cover? I'm like, well, they ain't actually white. They Puerto Rican and they light skinned. And because the Bronx is like a real Latinx, Latino, area. And they got there on time. It was about 4 nice looking sisters. Showed up late as hell. And the photographer had already set up the lighting and set it up. He was like, they late. And they looking at me like, come on, brother, bruh. And I'm like, man, they look good. Come on, let them in. We're going to parlay. We're going to drink some drinks afterwards. Get them in. Dude was like, hey, I can call the record company and say that we scrapped the project for the day because you want to let some late people in. I was like, damn. Deuces for y'all. But y'all can still call me. And they was like, no, we can't. Like you played us, bruh. But yeah, so the concept was mine. And it was unique for the time. People talk to me about especially back in the day, talk to me about that album cover all the when we talk. Somebody I talked to Ice Cube. First thing he brought up was like, "Yo, you had that album cover with the chicks in the bikinis." He said, "Yeah, I remember that." So people remember that album cover from back then.
That's dope. You had I know that the one song I really like called Jealousy, you had that on there. You was a real story, like a storyteller, so I thought that was pretty dope. But I know the one song that you did have with Melly Mel. Could you talk about that record?
MC Story. Man, I tell people today, that's of all my cuts, that's like my favorite because I really put my heart into the lyrics of what it felt like to me at the time to be an MC. And so, yeah, man, I already that was easy for me to write because I'm feeling it at the time. I'm living that MC life. I'm writing lyrics. I'm writing on scratch pieces of paper. I'm walking, trying to come up with rap lyrics. People think I'm talking to myself. MCs know what I'm talking about when I'm talking about that life, and knowing that you're trying to get on, and everybody telling you they can hook you up or they can put you on, and if you give them some money or if you let them make this call, you come record in their place. It's just the process of trying to really get your work noticed. Every artist knows that routine. So I just wrote about it in my lyrics, and the record was done. We did most of it in Cleveland already, and then when I went to New York, we were really just mixing at Quad Studios, same studio where Tupac got shot.
Yep.
The first time, Pac got shot a bunch of times. But the one he tried to blame on Biggie and Puffy and them. So I recorded in that studio. And so we were really just mixing down. And then we had like a extra couple set of bars that were just available to have a guest MC. And this was also something that collabs wasn't really a thing back then. And so, we went through some names at the company, and of course, they're like, chill, who you want? Of course, I'm shouting out the biggest group in rap at the time. I'm like, can we get Run DMC? And they like, yeah, try again, you wish. Tone it down a little bit, bro. Let's make it doable. So the name Melly Mel came up. And, to me, Melly Mel from Grandmaster Flash and the Furious 5, everybody knows him from The Message, which obviously changed the game in hip-hop. People learned that they didn't just have to rap about being at the party or how many women I had or what kind of clothes I got. Mel started talking about stuff with substance, about life. That had really never been done before. So I respected Mel as a rap writer and was somebody that I definitely looked up to as a lyricist. And, you know, he was kind of OG at the time. He wasn't out with new stuff. And they like, you want Melly Mel? I'm like, hell yeah, that's history right there. If I could do a cut with Mel, I'm good. I'm a made man. Like I'm legit. So we worked it out. Mel showed up. Now, you know, obviously we had a couple issues when he showed up about his lyrics, but because they told me I was supposed to write his lyrics, and I knew that sounded crazy. Like I'm gonna write lyrics for the dude who wrote The Message. Like how that sound? And but I wrote them, and they said they would tell him. Mel comes in, let me hear the track so I can write my lyrics. And I'm like, oh shit, we got a problem. And you know, they like, oh Mel, your lyrics already wrote, which he thought was the funniest thing in the world. Like somebody wrote my lyrics? Like how crazy did that sound? Who? They like, oh Chill did. I'm like, oh damn. He looks at me like, my guy, not only how do you go have the audacity to write lyrics for the greatest rap writer of all time? He literally probably said that and was like, but he looked at me like, and dude, you ain't even from New York. Like how you, come on. So, you know, we worked it out. Mike Chapman said, well, why don't you listen to what Chill wrote for himself? So he drops MC Story. Mel's boy hears my lyrics and he was feeling them. And he like, Mel, don't front. That's dope. Mel was like, okay, let me see what you wrote for me. I'm like, hey, we got action. He willing to actually look at it. Looked at it. Give me a pencil. He changed one word. Went in the booth, straight dropped what I wrote for him verbatim. He changed one word. Wow. He changed my name is Grandmaster Melly Mel to my code is Grandmaster Melly Mel. I think he just did that just to change something. He changed name to code. I'm like, okay, whatever. Long as it's happening. But yeah, man, that's probably the greatest moment. I mean, you know, Grandmaster Flash Furious 5, first rappers to be inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And like I said, Mel changed the entire game of hip hop, of what you could talk about before Public Enemy, before, you know, NWA. He started talking about life in the streets. So yeah, that was dope to get Mel on my cut.
Okay. So you did the project with all the beautiful ladies. So what happened? Because I didn't really see like a lot of projects after that. Like what happened after that whole situation?
Well, and it's funny because like I said earlier that, you know, they released and you worked off of your single. So they released, first single release was Busta's Rhyme, and that came out the gate top 100. Then MC Story came out, and Downbeats came out. And in the UK, they released Prophecy as a single. So those 4 singles off the album lasted like 2 years. You know, you could work for, you know, you remember on that Bobby Brown album, Bobby Brown worked that album for like 6 years off of songs off that album. Because they just released single after single after single. And it just so, I worked for like 2 years just off those first 3 singles. And then when it was time for the second album, they started saying, you know, you got any songs? I was like, well, I'm working on some stuff. And so they were, what do you have right now? Let's get a single out right now. I'm like, the only single I have right now written is this song about the movie that's out with Freddy Krueger and the, you know, Nightmare on Elm Street. I got to cut Nightmare on Chill Street, which I never intended for a single, just something for the album. I'm just writing lyrics. And they're like, let's do it. I'm like, I don't even have any music ready. I ain't talked to Mike. I hadn't worked with Mike in 2 years on music. And they like, let's get another producer. And Fresh Gordon, who had his own stuff, Gordy's Groove, had done some stuff for the Fat Boys. He had done some Biggie cuts. He had done some Houdini cuts. he just happened to be there getting his check for a Fat Boys cut he had produced. It was like, hey, we got Fresh Gordon here. I want you work with him. I'm like, okay. I knew Gordon's music. I knew Gordy's music, and I'm like, he's slick with it. I went to his spot in Brooklyn. Big ups to BK. I still got love. They took me in Brooklyn, and that's where I met a lot of Brooklyn cats, man. Big Jazz O, who started I met Jay-Z in Brooklyn, Biggie, like a lot of them Brooklyn, Big Daddy Kane. All of them Brooklyn cats will come through Gordon. Salt and Pepper recorded Push It in Gordy's house, in his bathroom, the same place I recorded Nightmare on Chill Street, in Gordy's hot-ass bathroom. Where somebody flushed the toilet, you couldn't record for you had to wait 20 minutes for the noise or the water draining to stop. But so me and Gordy started working on Nightmare on Chill Street, and so that became the next single after the album. And then I started working on the album. Then the record company, the parent company, gets into some trouble. I still have to be careful. Because back in them days, gangsters ran, for real gangsters, mobbed up cats ran record companies. Might not have been the dudes who you work with, but the dudes who you work with, they boss is boss. A lot of times was mobbed up. So they got caught up in some music pirating issues, and somebody went to jail. And I'm talking about this on a big level. And but it filtered down to the label, went defunct, and at that time I started looking for a new label, and we started talking to Island 4th and Broadway, which Rakim and Eric B was on, and so we started working. We had a deal in place for some music with them, and then the music kind of changes. So we talking about the late 80s, early 90s, NWA drops. And that's a wrap.
Changed music.
It changed the music. It changed the whole climate, the whole tempo. They doing their thing. This so-called gangster rap come out. Dre start dropping these crazy, funky beats that New York cats wasn't doing. They got real complicated with their stuff, man. Dre just started coming with the funk, and it's recognized. I mean, people loving it nationwide, and but it changed the game. And I ain't no gangster rapper. I ain't trying to say I out here got bodies on me. Not that I will admit to, but for real, I ain't got no bodies on me. But I know some people. But okay, I might not know people. Okay, anyway, allegedly, but I started working with other groups at the time. I also started managing. And that's also the time I got involved in journalism.
You the president. You still the president
of the Black Journalists Association. Wow. But I started writing because of hip-hop. I'm in New York, and I approached the editor of Source magazine at the time, the original editor of Source, and I'm on him. I'm always big up in Cleveland. Like, how come I don't see no Cleveland stuff in there? Y'all ain't really repping Cleveland. And he was like, well, send us some stuff from Cleveland. And I was like, okay. I'm thinking, I wasn't saying I was going to write it. I wasn't a writer. But I'm like, you know what? I can write. I went to college. I wrote term papers. I can write rhymes. For me to write a story, they ain't even got a rhyme. How hard can it be? And so I started writing for Source magazine, and other people saw me writing and started asking me to write for their publication. So that began that whole journey. But it started with hip hop, but also started working with other groups. I got other groups on. And so I kind of transitioned from artist to manager to journalist. Also, Lynn Tolliver invited me to host the Rapper's Delight show. So I also was doing the show kind of like my mentor, Mr. Magic, was doing in New York. I kind of used the same format. So I started diversifying, doing a whole lot of different things other than being the artist. So we ended up just not doing the project. Music was different. I was working with other cats. I'm writing. I'm doing a radio show. So I kind of changed lanes at that time.
Okay. And we gonna wrap it up. But so you interviewed some great people like Lawrence Fishburne, Chadwick Boseman,
Right.
and you good friends with Halle Berry too.
Mm-hmm.
So is that like how was that? Like, what was your biggest interview? You would say,
Man, that's hard to say, man, because I mean I've interviewed every black actor, even every major. I mean, from Halle to Denzel to Fishburne to, I mean, everybody. And even, non-black actors from Matt Damon to Ben Affleck to, I mean, I've interviewed a lot of cats, all the Lucy Liu and the Drew Barrymore. And I mean, I interviewed a lot of people, so it's hard to say who was the biggest. I mean, probably I'm most proud of, I interviewed Dr. Maya Angelou, rest in peace.
oh, wow.
But I mean, I've interviewed a lot of people. But Halle is different because we're friends, and Halle is, I mean, people claiming her in Bedford, but she a Lee Harvard girl. And we went to elementary school together at Adlai Stevenson. And
Adlai Stevenson too? That's where I went.
Yeah. See, there we go. So yeah, but Halle went to Adlai Stevenson. Halle and her sister Heidi Berry, I knew them from elementary school. And, so Halle, she moves to LA, she does this big thing, and she always was good about when she had something big, she would invite me or have me down. I was there when I was with her the weekend that she won the Oscar. I was literally rode in the car with her when she got her star on the Walk of Fame. So me interviewing Halle is kind of different because we're friends. But, I've interviewed a lot of people, man. And I'll tell anybody, they don't always go good. Like I had like 6 rotten interviews with Chris Rock.
Oh wow!
Like I literally want to fight that dude.
Really?
And but and the famous, I interviewed Tevin Campbell, and it was funny because now we had the Can We Talk thing. I'm like, yeah, I need to talk to him because I want to whoop his little ass. But yeah, we had one on that one. But yeah, cats. I interviewed a lot of dudes, man. But the interview Denzel is big. Fishburne was big. I mean, I interviewed Dolly Parton. I interviewed a lot of people over the course of time. So
yeah, you have your own show as well. Chill. Can you talk a little bit about that real quick?
Yeah, I do the show Chill Talk. Man, I think Felicia said the other day that we've been doing Chill Talk. They said like 5 years or something like that. That's crazy. Wow. But yeah, so we started doing Chill Talk up at Radio 1, at WRE News Talk Cleveland. Did lots of interviews, a lot of in-studio interviews, a lot of good call-ins. First show, man, I had the mayor of Cleveland then, Frank Jackson, called in, and right behind that, Curtis Blow called in. Oh, wow. So that's a crazy mix. But a lot of good interviews from there, a lot of good discussions, and people can still go back to my Facebook page and check videos on the Chill Talk page, as well as my YouTube channel. But when COVID happened, they shut down the station. So I just continued to do the show. Me and Felicia Haney, the producer, continued to do the show at home. But yeah, I hope to return to the radio station or somebody's radio station. I ain't gonna wait forever for people been talking to me about doing something different. So everything's negotiable.
Right.
But and real quick, me and Felicia we're in a movie that hasn't come out yet, where we're doing Chill Talk in somebody's movie. Oh, we're talking about the real life occurrence on our show as it wasn't real, as if it was real. We're doing like Chill Talk in somebody's movie, and I got a glimpse of it the other day. So yeah, slick. But yeah, check us out for Chill Talk, and we're gonna be doing something new. Okay.
So real quick, you grinded, you hustled, and that's how you built your buzz. That key word that a lot of artists they wonder why they may not get to a certain level. You got to create a buzz. What's some advice you would give to a up and coming artist or a journalist or even a podcaster? What advice would you give to them?
Stay committed. Try to be different, but be able to adapt. I mean, that's my whole life, is being able to adapt. You know, I started as doing one thing and did something different and I'm rapping and I'm writing and I'm riding around with Hallie and you know, I'm doing radio shows and I'm a president of a journalists association. So have a lot of tools in your toolbox. The more tools you got, the more work you can get. You know, so be able to adapt. I mean, all players know that.
Exactly.
Be able to adapt. Being able to do different things, man, but be true to the game, be true to yourself, and be serious about the craft that you're doing, because you can't adapt if you're not good at it. I can't all of a sudden say, oh, you know what, I'm going to start writing for a newspaper, and I can't write. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, just like interviewing, you did your homework. Everybody, you know, not going to go in there. I'm going to just go interview somebody. We just go talk. You gotta, it's a craft. It's an art. You got to learn how to do it. Or if you don't know how to do it, you need to be quick at catching up to learn how to do it. So yeah, just be available, man, and have tools in your toolbox.
Yeah, and I got something for you. Just want to say I appreciate you for coming on. You know, and I want to give you a gift.
All right.
So yeah, you know,
is it some money? What we got? Okay, no, it's a red box. All right.
It's more. It's worth.
I got a red
money.
box.
No. See what's in that box.
Okay, what we got here?
Yeah. Yep. That's a liquid gold. So it's better than money. You know, 14 karat liquid gold.
All right, tell me, what knowledge me? What's the science?
That's my fragrance. I make it myself, and I've had it for about 4 years, and I sold over 12,000 bottles.
I had some of your stuff before. I put it on. Girls was jumping on me. And I'm married. I had to tell my wife, it's Stan. He's the one that did that. They wasn't me, baby. That's Stan. I put in stuff and chicks was just jumping on me on the, you know, the boom chaka wow.
So, yeah. But yeah, anybody.
I appreciate that though, bro.
I appreciate you. But if anybody want to purchase some of that liquid gold, just look on the bottom corner and my website there. You can purchase the product on there. Yep, liquid gold.
All right, my man.
But I appreciate you. You want to wrap it up? I want to. So the name Chill. How did you get Chill? Real quick before you get out of
here. They was calling me Chili. Then it shortened from Chili to Chill. But even when I was rapping, my first rap name was MC Chili D, because back then you had a D or G or you know, whatever. And I was MC Chili D. Then it just people was calling me Chili. Then it just broke down to Chill. And then I was just switched to MC Chill. And the Chill stuck. Even as a journalist, people still call me Chill. They don't even know me as a rapper, but they still know me as Chill. So that's what's up.
But I just want to say I appreciate you for coming on. Definitely inspirational to me. It's an honor for you to be my first interview.
Well, I appreciate it, man. You know, a lot of people don't check for the OG.
Oh, yeah. But I want all the youth to see this, and I'm going to send it to all of them, and they can know the story. But you kind of birthed hip-hop, not just in the city, but this whole region. And I was before in Bone Thugs, any of that, like, you know, and you know, salute to them. But I salute you.
I appreciate it, man. And big ups to Bone and them. Anybody that came after me, you know, I appreciate them. I like the work they did, from Brain to Bones to Cudi to MGK. You know, I feel like all of us are family.
Definitely.
So, you know, you do something in Cleveland, I feel, you know, that we're family. So big ups to all of them, too.
Well, there you have it. Just Curious, MC Chill, Kevin Hurd.
My man.
Nice to have you.
That's
appreciate
what's
it.
Up. Talk to me, Cleveland.
Peace.